Good morning, Uganda, coming to you live from Nile Avenue on UBC TV, inspiring Uganda on this 9th day of June 2025. Who is your hero? Do get in touch and let us know. 0709602592. We shall be reading your hero shoutouts in a short while. But thank you so much for joining UBC TV on Good Morning Uganda. And this particular day, this particular 9th of June 2025 is the 36th Heroes Day to be celebrated in Uganda, and national celebrations shall be taking place at Lyantonde Technical Institute in Kaliro Town Council, that is in Lyantonde District, and 50 people are expected to be honored, 41 males and 9 females only to be honored on this particular day. Now, it's a brand new week, and this very week we'll see the reading of the national budget, financial year 2025-2026 on Thursday, one that we're definitely looking forward to, but also the election season. And the political season is just boiling up the more, seeing as special interest groups elections are on for this particular month of June. Now, Robert Chirabo Nyonyintono is with me, Julie Nantaba Mosisi. Good morning. Good morning, Robert.
A lovely morning to you, Julie, and of course our viewer. Thank you very much for waking up with us and starting this public holiday. In case you're home and asking what is happening, well, we are celebrating Heroes Day, and I love the fact that now government doesn't only look at those that participated in the bush war, because when you look at the 50 people that are going to be receiving medals, Julie talked about the 41 being male and female. Now, today they have put in what we call modern day heroes. And this has taken place for about the last maybe 2 decades, where various people who have excelled and performed exceptional in certain fields also receive medals. They give both the dead and the living, because some people usually thought that to be a hero you must have died, but here we are, they are giving people who even are living but they have performed exceptionally. Let me give you an example. If you remember the Budo Inferno, we usually talk about it. There was a young girl who died in the process of saving others. She was recognized, she has a medal. Dr. Suduru Pareria has a medal. For the other young girl, it wasn't during the bush war, but it was exceptional act. She ran out but did her best to save others. Dr. Suduru Pareria, the economy, how many people he employs, what he has done, he received a medal. So you have other examples. And
actually,
that
my own father received a medal.
Yes, Diplok Segawa received a medal. That is in the music industry. He's been there and done so much. So that now brings the relevancy to the day-to-day, because many will ask themselves, including me, that if I didn't see any bullet, I didn't see anything that concerned the war, now celebrating this after 40 plus years, does it make sense?
Right.
Well, it does make sense, because you never know. You can be one of the heroes we are going to celebrate as a nation if you perform extraordinary. But remember also, the people that sacrificed their lives to go and spend the 5 years in the jungles and bring the peace that we are proud of today are indeed worth celebrating. True. You can't go forward when you do not know where you came
history. From. That's very, very true. Robert, take us through what's on the local scene today.
Well, let me begin with the government of Uganda, which has handed over 300 boats and engines to the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, these items were previously impounded during fisheries protection operations on Lake Edward, George, and Albert over the past years. Handing over led by the Fisheries Protection Unit under Lieutenant Colonel Masi Tukahira, took place at Rashema, a landing site in Rukunjiri district. Congolese officials praised President Yoweri Museveni and Uganda's military leadership for releasing the items unconditionally. Additionally, the handover occurred in Ntoroko and Bulisa districts. However, Ugandan fishermen raised concern about Congolese fishermen allegedly stealing their equipment, which has created tension on the shores of the lakes. Local leaders called for establishment of joint legal framework and conservation strategies to address illegal fishing and cross-border conflict. The National Forestry Authority, NFA, has started eviction of people living in the households built at Soroti City Central Forest Reserve. Soroti Central City Forest Reserve has 9 forest blocks, and they include Etemu Block, Gweri, Mandera, Prison Spring, Lale, Soroti, and Odumbale Road Block. National Forestry Authority officials last year visited the forest reserve and asked forest encroachers in Soroti City to vacate the land voluntarily before March 2025. NFA in March this year started restoring and planting of tree seedlings in the forest land. The aim is to restore degraded forest reserves and preserve natural resources by greening Soroti City. Joseph Otim, the NFA Central Manager in charge of Teso sector, noted that NFA gave the encroachers on the forest land eviction letters 5 years ago. He pointed out that no one is allowed to construct structures in the forest reserve without permission, and by law, the encroachers, if convicted, will be imprisoned for 6 years. Otim called upon the stakeholders and the leaders to make sure they recover and restore Soroti City Central Forest Reserve. Otim stated that over 300 households are illegally constructed on Soroti City Central Forest Reserve, adding that many have illegal land titles, and these land titles, unfortunately, were created on the forest reserve. A land dispute in Luzira, Nakawa Division sparked tension and forced security intervention. The conflict involves Europe, which has occupied and worked on the land since 1997, and Emmanuel Investment Limited, which claims to have legal acquirement of the same land in 2024. Mediation failed. Tension escalated, prompting police deployment to prevent possible violence. Kampala Resident District Commissioner, RDC, Jane Muhindo, later arrived with a security team and convened an emergency meeting. Both parties, accompanied by their legal teams, presented court documents and evidence supporting their claims. After reviewing the submission, security officials guided both groups on lawful steps to resolve the issue peacefully. Despite the effort, some residents criticized the outcome, alleging bias, asking the RDC to clarify the decision and ensure fairness. The RDC explained that the guidance provided was grounded in court findings and available evidence. The situation remains tense as residents await further clarification and resolution. Now, with those, we come to the end of our local stories this morning.
Right. Thank you very much, Robert. Let's take a look at what is on the local scene. And starting off with Trump, U.S. President Donald Trump has ordered 2,000 National Guardsmen to Los Angeles to deal with the unrest over raids over undocumented migrants. Trump said the federal government would step in and solve the problem after the Californian city saw a second day of clashes on Saturday between protesters and federal agents. Tear gas was used to disperse crowds as residents of the predominantly Latino Paramount District clashed with Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE agents earlier in the day. As many as 118 arrests were made in LA this week as a result of ICE operations, including 44 on Friday. California Governor Gavin Newsom has condemned the raids as cruel. Trump thanked the National Guard for a job well done in Los Angeles late on Saturday night. On Sunday morning, the first group of troops began arriving in the city, staging outside a detention center where illegal immigrants are taken once detained. Trump criticized the city's Democratic governor and mayor in a post on his Truth Social platform, calling them incompetent. He also said protesters would no longer be allowed to wear masks. Newsom said the federal government's takeover of the National Guard was purposefully inflammatory and would only escalate tensions. Now moving on, Greta Thunberg and a group of activists were arrested on Wednesday after occupying a university of Copenhagen building to call for an academic boycott of Israeli universities, Danish media reported. Now, images on Daily Eskrabladet showed the 21-year-old climate activist wearing a black and white keffiyeh shawl draped over her shoulders being escorted out of a campus building by police. Thunberg, meanwhile, shared images on Instagram of riot police entering a building where the group of students against the occupation were staging a protest. I can't confirm the names of those arrested, but 6 people have been arrested in connection with the demonstration, a Copenhagen policeman and police spokesperson told AFP. The students against the occupation said in a statement posted on Instagram that while the situation in Palestine only gets worse, the University of Copenhagen continues cooperation with academic institutions in Israel. We are occupying the university's central administration with one demand: academic boycott now. Well, moving on to Africa, and in particular Kenya, Kenya's independent police oversight body has launched an investigation into the death of a man who had been detained for a false publication, police have said. Albert Ojwang was arrested for a post on X in the western town of Homa Bay and then driven 350 kilometers to the capital, Nairobi. His father, Meshach Opio, told journalists. While in custody, the suspect sustained head injuries after hitting his head against a cell wall. A police statement said he was rushed to hospital where he was pronounced dead on arrival. The director of rights group Amnesty International's Kenya branch told the BBC that the death of Mr. Ojwang, described as a teacher and blogger, was very suspicious. Amnesty said in a statement that his death raised serious questions that must be urgently, thoroughly, and independently investigated. Senior police officer Stephen Okal is quoted by the Star newspaper as saying what happened in the cell was an attempted suicide. It's not clear what the charge of false publication referred to, but Mr. Opio told online news site Citizen Digital that the arresting police officer said Albert had insulted a senior person on X, the social media platform. Well, with that from the foreign scene, Robert, take us away with what's in the press today.
We begin with the New Vision this morning, where President commands Babalanda for mobilization. That is, Museveni also warns on camps in NRM. Now, temperatures are boiling up. Among urges Rengo to vote for Museveni. Still, the New Vision brings you 6 Ugandans on Cheyo die in Kuwait fire. Very unfortunate. Car thieves devise new strange tricks. What are those tricks? You have to look into the paper and see. Land judge crashes principal judge's decision. And Emmanuel Katongole from Katwe slum to multi-millionaire. Well, that is for the New Vision this morning. Now we move to the Daily Monitor, where the Daily Monitor, we have court orders audit of Chiwanuka Estate. Then Alupo asks church to embrace government programs. And the body of woman exhumed, that is at the ex-Ginger Education Officer's home, identified who the lady is. And we look at East Africa ministers suspend new levies on high-risk products. And still down the Daily Monitor, we have female aspirants pile pressure on Fort Portal 2026 mayor race. Fort Portal City there. And still the Daily Monitor, the toll of being a health worker in Uganda. So they give you so much there. Well, politics is there, and in Fort Portal, I have a friend there who won his engineer, forgotten the name, NRM position for Fort Portal City.
You forgot your friend's name.
I forgot my friend's name. It's very ashamed, but all I know he went through.
Right.
I think it's engineer Asimwe something. I'll let you know even before we close the show.
All right, congratulations to him. Now, moving on to what's in Tanzania in the Citizen. NHC's 607 shillings billion plan to change key urban centers. That is a headline in the Citizen. And also, way forward as unsafe abortions cost Tanzania more than 10 billion shillings annually. Horror road smash leaves 28 dead in Mbeya and 1,000 registered to grab opportunities in Tanzania, UK. Now, quickly moving on to the cities, the Daily Nation, that is in Kenya. In there is Ruto hits 1,000 days. And President Ruto rode to power on lofty promises, projecting himself as the champion of the majority poor, but an assessment of his midterm record exposes missed targets and a nation in crisis, as demonstrated by rising public discontent that boiled over the last year during bloody nationwide anti-tax riots. And grade 9 learners begin selecting career paths. That is the story in the Daily Nation. Also, cry for help. Police officers lament unpaid allowances. Now, moving on to the Gazette, contents in there, the Mining and Minerals Act notices. In there is the Educations Act notices, the Advocates Act notices, Companies Act notices, the Insolvency Act notices, the Copyright and Neighboring Rights Regulations notices, the Oaths of Nagwere notice, the Electricity Regulatory Authority Act notice, the Police Regulations notices, the Trademarks Act registration of applications, and the Mining and Minerals Act notice of grant of an exploration license. It's hereby notified that the exploration license number EL00417, registered as number 003557, has been granted in accordance with the provisions of sections 43 and 47 to Euro Gold Refinery Uganda Limited, SMC Limited, of P.O. Box 105171 Kampala for a period of 4 years, effective 12th August 2024. And the area subject to exploration license is 79.81 kilometers squared and is on topography map sheet numbers 12/1, 12/2, situated in Yumbe and Arua districts, dated 27th day of May 2025, and by Honorable Dr. Ruth Nankabirwa Sentamu, Minister of Energy and Mineral Development. In there is another notice of grant of an exploration license for license numbers EL00470, registered as number 003550, has been granted in accordance with the provisions of sections 43 to 47 to West Nile Nickel Uganda Limited, P.O. Box 2255 Kampala, for a period of 4 years, effective 24th March 2025. And exploration area is in is 184.84 kilometers squared and is on topography map sheet 12/1, 4/4, 12/2, situated in Yumbe and Arua districts. And this was dated 12th day of May 2025, and as by Honorable Dr. Ruth Nankabirwa Sentamu. And finally, another notice of grant of exploration license granted to license number EL00452, registered as 003548, granted to West Nile Nickel Uganda Limited, P.O. Box 2255 Kampala, for a period of 4 years as of 24th March 2025. And all this by Honorable Dr. Ruth Nankabirwa Sentamu, Minister of Energy and Mineral Development. And that marks it.
I've remembered my friend's name.
Right.
Well, that is Engineer Asimwe Janad. Now, Engineer Asimwe Janad is the NRM chairperson of Hoima City. They must say this people made the best choice here. A very young man, energetic, so much into business, and I'm sure if he contests away from just being the NRM chairperson and goes maybe for the mayorship, or that is MP of that area,
right,
I guarantee you they will definitely develop the area even further. It's the oil city. The other one was that was,
right.
but he's for the oil city.
Right. Now let's take a short break, and as we do that, let me read a comment from Kawanguzi Paul, who says, hello UBC, good morning Uganda. Thank you for the show. I just wanted to greet you guys because I'm a new member on the WhatsApp group and the show. Thank you so much, Kawanguzi Paul from Jinja Muguluka. Thank you for being on the show. Let's enjoy a song from PJ Powers, Radio and Weasel, Home to Africa.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala.
The Fisheries Protection Unit under Lieutenant Colonel Masi Tukahira took place at Rashema, a landing site in Rukunjiri district. Congolese officials praised President Yoweri Museveni and Uganda's military leadership for releasing the items unconditionally. Additionally, the handover occurred in Ntoroko and Bulisa districts. However, Ugandan fishermen raised concern about Congolese fishermen allegedly stealing their equipment, which has created tension on the shores of the lakes. Local leaders called for establishment of joint legal framework and conservation strategies to address illegal fishing and cross-border conflict. The National Forestry Authority, NFA, has started eviction of people living in the households built at Soroti City Central Forest Reserve. Soroti Central City Forest Reserve has 9 forest blocks, and they include Etemu Block, Gweri, Mandera, Prison Spring, Lale, Soroti, and Old Mbale Road Block. National Forestry Authority officials last year visited the forest reserve and asked forest encroachers in Soroti City to vacate the land voluntarily before March 2025. NFA in March this year started restoring and planting of tree seedlings in the forest land. The aim is to restore degraded forest reserves and preserve natural resources by greening Soroti City. Joseph Otim, the NFA Central Manager in charge of Teso sector, noted that NFA gave the encroachers on the forest land eviction letters 5 years ago. He pointed out that no one is allowed to construct structures in the forest reserve without permission, and by law, the encroachers, if convicted, will be imprisoned for 6 years. Otim called upon the stakeholders and the leaders to make sure they recover and restore Soroti City Central Forest Reserve. Otim stated that over 300 households are illegally constructed on Soroti City Central Forest Reserve, adding that many have illegal land titles, and these land titles, unfortunately, were created on the forest reserve. A land dispute in Luzira, Nakawa division sparked tension and forced security intervention. The conflict involves Europe, which has occupied and worked on the land since 1997, and Emmanuel Investment Limited, which claims to have legal acquirement of the same land in 2024. Mediation failed. Tension escalated, prompting police deployment to prevent possible violence. Kampala Resident District Commissioner, RDC, Jane Muhindo, later arrived with a security team and convened an emergency meeting. Both parties, accompanied by their legal teams, presented court documents and evidence supporting their claims. After reviewing the submission, security officials guided both groups on lawful steps to resolve the issue peacefully. Despite the effort, some residents criticized the outcome, alleging bias, asking the RDC to clarify the decision and ensure fairness. The RDC explained that the guidance provided was grounded in court findings and available evidence.
Political landscape. It is a time to remember and acknowledge the struggles and achievements of those who fought for independence, peace and justice, and to reflect on the ongoing efforts to build a better Uganda. This year, the celebrations will take place under the theme, The Legacy and Ideals of Our Heroes, a Memorable Inspiration. Join us on Monday the 9th of June in Liantonde District as we relay the activities live on UBC. Happy Heroes Day.
The government's core mandate is to maintain law and order, safeguard citizens' rights, and provide essential public services.
Remember, one of the pillars of the roadmap is innovation and entrepreneurship.
There has been this question of how are you protecting our indigenous seed?
It's going to be a tall project. That answers somebody's question.
For the past 20 weeks, the Front Bench has brought you insightful discussions on governance, security, healthcare, justice, and commerce.
Why do you go through this complicated procedure, involve the lawyers? You bring the case against him, the judge will hear you out and pass judgment, and you're out of court in record time.
We remain committed to keeping you informed and engaged on key national matters.
So these are huge, these are powerful organizations which now Uganda chairs. Why don't you come together?
If we haven't migrated to the e-card because of various reasons, including that not all the people of Uganda have smartphones.
You can sit in your house, apply for a passport. If you have a Ugandan who has a successful logistics firm in the US, it means he can come to Uganda and do a lot more.
Now airing every Monday at 8:30 p.m. with me, Jethro Kasaiji, your interface with the government only on your public broadcaster, UBC, Inspiring Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
On this Heroes Day, Good Morning Uganda. Once again, thank you so much for joining UBC TV. If you've just joined the show, you're welcome. If you've been with us since we started, thank you so much for being on the show. Julie Nantabamusisi is my name. And good morning, this is Emmanuel Obaro following you from Lira, Northern Uganda, Lira City, Northern Uganda. Happy Heroes Day. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. Happy Heroes Day to you too and everyone around you. Just like Emmanuel, 0709602592 is the WhatsApp number that you are able to engage and be on the show. Now, Mwesigwa Habat, you sent an audio. We are unable to play and hear what you are saying through the audio. So feel free to text via WhatsApp, the same WhatsApp number, so that we are able to read your message and what you want to put across. Now, the Civil Society Organization released a press statement yesterday regarding CSO's perspective on the financial year 2025-2026 budget that is to be read on Thursday, and that is what we're looking at in this part of the reel. In studio with us to do that is Mr. Pascal Mohanji, who is an economist at CSBAG, but he is also a lecturer at MUBS and in the Department of Applied Economics. Good morning, Pascal.
Good morning, Nantaba.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's pleasure is mine.
Right, yes. The budget is here. It's to be read on Thursday. And in the press, CSBAG highlighted a significant gap between the proposed budget and the resources available for the implementation of NDP4.
True.
In your perspective, how does CSBAG propose bridging the gap between the proposed budget and what's available to achieve the NDP4?
Thank you. Good morning, Uganda. Yes, it is true. In the last month, in May, Parliament approved the budget, which will Minister of Finance will read on Thursday, and that budget has slightly increased from last year's budget by about 0.3%, which is really minimal compared to the transition from the other year to this year, which was about 37%. When you compare it, because this budget is going to be very important on two grounds. It is going to be the first budget that will implement the 5-year NDP4, but also be the first budget that is going to usher us into new leadership after 2026 general elections. But when you look at NDP4 and the flagship programs of ATMs and how they have been financed in the budget, we see a slight mismatch between what the ATMs are being given and NDP4, the targets, vis-a-vis what we see as allocations in the budget. You know, the ATMs, these are the priority areas that the government has identified to be the areas to drive economic growth. The target is to grow Uganda from the current about 550 billion US dollars to about 500 billion US dollars in the next 15 years, up to the end of Vision 2040, that is 2039, 2040. And these 5 areas include agro-industry development, tourism development, mineral-based industrial development, sustainable development of petroleum and oil and gas, and then science and technology. And when you check with the budget, actually on each of these programs, you find either they have been given less what was supposed to be given according to NDP4, and overall, we see there is a gap of about 47 billion that you were still lacking to fully finance these programs according to NDP. So for us, we feel that is a gap. If these are flagship programs as identified in NDP and also in the budget strategy, then they should be financed as per what the NDP4 has recommended. Remember, we saw some challenges with NDP3. Some projects were never implemented when you look at the assessment that was done at the midterm report. So we don't want to have NDP4 facing the same challenges. And this being the first year, it would set the ground for the coming years. So if we get it wrong on the first year, then most likely we're going to get it wrong in the second year, and we face the same challenges that we saw in the NDP3. So that is an area of concern, but the budget has already been approved.
Right.
And now we're looking into implementation.
Right.
Yes.
And speaking of which, let's also look at the issue of underfunding. I mean, there are areas that have been really underfunded compared to to what was advised for them to be funded. How do you think, what is CSBAG's stance on underfunding and how it's going to affect the current budget that we are going into, and what immediate actions would CSBAG recommend?
Well, as I said, the budget has already been approved. At this level, nothing much can change on the budget, but we can go with what we have and make sure that what we have is actually being implemented to the dot. You know, it is one thing having an approved budget, it is a different thing having that budget implemented. Over the last couple of years, we've seen challenges in budget implementation. And we feel that if those are not addressed even before we reach 1st July when we are going to start implementing this budget, we might face the same challenges. Some of those include challenges of absorption. You approve a budget, but then the absorption is very small. You find you have a budget of 72 trillion, end of year, you have already absorbed 60 trillion. It is very common in projects that you have a project budgeted maybe for 400 billion. It has reached its final, it is 4 years, the 4 years have elapsed, and you have only used 300 billion. The remaining money goes back, and if that money has been contracted on loan, that money attracts interest. If you have not gotten it from the lender, it attracts commitment fees. And those are all losses to the taxpayer. The other issue that has always been affecting the budget is a common one, supplementary budgeting. We have just approved the budget. We are going to the new year. All MDAs had a full year of planning for the next year.
Right.
So we shouldn't expect in July, August, September next year to see an MDA coming and tabling a supplementary budget asking for salaries. Really, we all know that if you are running an MDA and ministry, you know, you need to pay salaries in the next 12 months. Why not plan for them now? We understand there are some things that are unforeseeable, like disasters, especially those relating to climate, floods. Those can really be accommodated. But we have seen supplementary budgets where someone comes and asks for salaries. How can you ask for a supplementary budget of salaries when you well knew that you had 10 employees and you have to pay them the next 12 months? So that is one area that we feel needs to be addressed
Rechecked, yes.
As we enter into the new financial year. The issue of arrears. When you check the Auditor General's report, the areas in Uganda have reached up 10, 12, 13 trillion. Those areas is the money that we have withdrawn from the private sector. Because whenever businesses supply government tries to pay back. That simply means that you have withdrawn that money, it is not running in the private sector. It affects private sector performance. But also, some areas attract interest. I was reading somewhere that at the time when UNRWA was being transferred to Ministry of Works, they had areas of close to 1 trillion. And those were attracting interest on a daily basis. So if we paid those areas in time, then we could save on the interest we are paying on those areas. So it affects the economy on two grounds. One, it affects private sector. If me as a business person, I supply government, maybe let's say chairs, and they have not paid me for the next 5 years, then where will I get capital to make new chairs? But also, if government is paying interest on those areas, then we are unnecessarily losing taxpayers' money in just servicing those areas. So some of these issues need to be addressed. The issue of accountability has been an issue of concern, where you have really expenditure that does not speak to the needs of a Ugandan.
Right.
Yes.
Very interesting. 0709602592. We are looking into the budget that is to be read on Thursday, and CSOs shared their perspective yesterday, released a press statement, and it's really what we are looking about. So to be on the show, that number is one that you have to save and engage Pascal here to speak more into this matter. Now, CSOs identified over 2 trillion over 2 trillion shillings allocated to non-essential areas, expenditures. Now, can you elaborate on CSBAG's position on regarding these allocations in the first place, and what proposed redirection, if possible? Really, it's quite too late now, but do share CSBAG's position regarding these misallocations.
True, there are some allocations that we see that could have been rediverted. The allocation should speak to the needs of Ugandans. Pro-poor budget, that's what we call it. The budget should be pro-poor, going into areas like education, health. Those are areas that affect everyday Ugandan. But now when you see allocations going into other areas like travel abroad. Yes, we know travel abroad is very important, because sometimes the Minister of Finance will go to broker a deal with IMF. That is very, very important. But how often should you go? So when we see allocations like to Minister of Education declining, then we see some allocations maybe going to private individuals, maybe to broker certain, to promote coffee. Then for us it's an issue of concern. When you have less money for UPE, UPE is the money that actually goes to the grassroots people. Right. Those UPE schools.
There was even the allocation of more funds to URA.
Yes.
Than Mulago National Referral Hospital.
You had that saga of URA medicine.
Yes.
When you don't have, when the allocation for Uganda Medical Stores, which is in charge of procuring, storing, and distributing drugs to the 45.9 million Ugandans being cut or being given less. When you have the money allocated to the antimalarials, these are the medicine for curing malaria. And you know, in the tropics, Uganda and the tropics, malaria is one of the commonest diseases.
True.
Now, you have its budget being reduced, but on the other hand, maybe you have money for insurance to URA staff being increased. So really, you see, there is a mismatch in the priorities of the country. When you see money for medicine reducing, on the backdrop of donor funding reducing, we expected government to be putting more money into health. You have seen what is happening in the donor world with the inward policies in the USA. We saw major donors leaving. So we expected government to come and cover that gap. But we have seen the budgets, very critical budgets for like NMS declining or being given insufficient allocations. For us, those are the areas that we feel could have been looked into and probably better financing given. Nevertheless, the budget has been approved. We have to keep that at the back of our mind. And now the focus should be, how do we use what has been given?
Yes, and I guess that's where your recommendations actually come to play.
Yes.
So that those responsible.
Responsible.
Yes.
The cross has been cut. This is what we have. It is very unlikely that the budget is going to change at this time.
Right.
But whatever has been given should now be put at use in the lenses of accountability, transparency, and frugality.
Right.
Yes.
Now, from your perspective as you know, CSOs, it looks like the budget is not pro-people.
There are some areas that are really pro-people. Areas like PDM.
Right, yes.
Yeah, the allocations for PDM has increased. Areas like Myoga, areas like Grow, Invite Project, the money being put into UDB to support businesses, the money being put into the agricultural credit facility. Those are areas that we feel are pro-people. But there are some other areas, much as these are good areas, there are some other areas that we have not given the priority they deserve.
Right.
The social sectors, agriculture, extension workers, health, education, there are some sectors that affect everyone. The sector of health and education, let me tell you, if me and you never went to school, no one would be here this morning.
That's true.
So those are the sectors that have higher multiplier effects on the economy. They affect productivity of people. And if you underfund them, then you affect the long-term productivity of the economy. Because productivity bases on two things: the skills you have and the energy you have to put those skills to work. That is health and education. So much as we are financing these other areas that are pro-people, like PDM, Myoga, Grow, Invite, all that money sage, these critical areas of education, health, agriculture, roads and infrastructure, we feel are not being given the priority they deserve.
Right, which in a way speaks into an imbalance of how the economy should flow. Let's look at climate budgeting. CSBAG, what does CSBAG recommend in regards to enhancing budgets for the climate priorities?
I'm very sure in the last financial year, we saw, I don't know if it was the last year or the other year, we saw a lot of issues with flooding. So what happened in Mbari, we saw images of cars being swept away, livestock being swept away.
Right.
So that should open up our mind of what is actually happening. Climate change affects everything. It affects agriculture, it affects businesses. When the roads flood and wash our roads, that is a loss to economy. So more money should be actually be allocated to climate change, mitigation, and adaptation. We are not seeing enough being given. Actually, we are seeing a cut, a budget cut for the climate change, natural resources, and environment program. With what is happening in the world, in the lenses of climate change, global warming, here on the ground, in the Kasese, we are always seeing floods. In Mbane, the other day, we saw a lot of floods. We have weather changes. These days, we used to know that in this month we are planting, in the other months we are harvesting and drying. That has since gone away because the weather patterns have changed. The droughts are longer, the rain seasons are shorter. That affects food production, and you know Uganda is an agricultural economy. So when you affect food production, when you see people's crops drying, then you should be allocating more money at areas like climate change, natural resources and environment, and water management program. But we are seeing their budgets being cut, and we feel that is not in tandem with the priorities of the economy. and what is actually happening on the global scale. Yeah.
Right. Now, this conversation definitely has to come to its close, but the budget is going to be read on Thursday, and this press release statement is already public and online, very available. So for you to be well informed and to compare your notes and think best for your country as to what you should do, this information is available. This was Pascal Mohanji speaking into the press statement that was released yesterday by CSOs regarding the budget that was approved, financial year 2025-2026, and is to be read on Thursday. That's it from us. Thank you, Pascal, for joining us.
Welcome.
We'll look forward to having you more on the show.
Thank you.
All right. Yes. Good Morning Uganda does continue. We have GMU Tourism Express. We have the agenda. We have sports. We have a lot in store for you, so stay tuned.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Heroes Day is observed on the 9th of June annually in Uganda. On this day, we commemorate the sacrifices made during the Bush War of 1981-1986, which played a crucial role in shaping Uganda's political landscape. It is a time to remember and acknowledge the struggles and achievements of those who fought for independence, peace and justice, and to reflect on the ongoing efforts to build a better Uganda. This year, the celebrations will take place under the theme, The Legacy and Ideals of Our Heroes, a Memorable Inspiration. Join us on Monday the 9th of June in Liantonde District as we relay the activities live on UBC. Happy Heroes Day.
On the occasion of the 36th Heroes Day, the Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs, together with the Uganda People's Defense Force, join His Excellency General Retired Yoweri Kaguta Tibuhaburwa Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda and Commander-in-Chief of the UPDF, and all Ugandans in commemorating this significant event. As we honor the gallant men and women who sacrificed for the peace, freedom, and prosperity of our nation, we reaffirm our commitment to ensuring peace and stability throughout the country. Aligning with the National Development Plan 4, we remain focused on completing the UPDF National Referral Hospital, fast-tracking the construction of the Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs headquarters, strengthening the capacity of security agencies to address emerging security threats, and enhancing people-centered security service delivery. As we reflect on the legacy of our heroes, we pledge to uphold the values they stood for and continue building a peaceful and secure Uganda for all. The Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development will read the budget speech for the financial year 2025-2026 under the theme, Full Monetization of Uganda's Economy through Commercial Agriculture, Industrialization, Expanding and Broadening Social Services, Digital Transformation, and Market Access. Please listen to the budget speech on 12th June 2025 to know the budget priorities and the opportunities it presents. Our budget, our responsibility. This message is brought to you by the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group, Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, and all the Budget Month partners.
Uniquely ours. Explore Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. Today on the GMU Tourism Express, we begin our journey to Hoima, the heart of Bunyoro Kingdom, with the Uganda Tourism Board ahead of the Mpango celebrations. You are going to be with us throughout this journey, so stick around as we explore and get to see what will be happening. Ahead of the Mpango celebrations, we are just setting off from Kampala, and with me is the marketing officer, Uganda Tourism Board, who goes by the names of Atire Irene, and she is also the team lead of this team that will be going to Hoima. Please say hello to the viewers.
Hello to the viewers. I'm glad to be here today. I'm representing Uganda Tourism Board. Irene Atare is my name. Leading the team going to Hoima to celebrate the 31st Mpango coronation. I'm glad I'm from Hoima, and Abanyoro, Sylvia Muta, Muraire Muta, Inywena Ntubagonza, Ntubalaliko Kwija Hamkoro guno. We celebrate with our king, Omukama Solomon Gafabusa Iguru. As Uganda Tourism Board, it's our mandate to promote cultural tourism. Every year we celebrate with different kingdoms on such a celebration. So for Uganda Tourism Board, we are going to participate in the marathon, which happens tomorrow. It's a big thing in Hoima. This marathon, it's one way of supporting, we run for a cause. We are running for a cause to get a cancer machine for Hoima Referral Hospital as part of the activities for the coronation. The team will also explore Bunyoro, the different cultural tourism sites. We'll go to Mparo Tombs, we'll visit the Royal Palace, we'll go down to Lake Albert, the Rift Valley, we'll go to Kiviro Sand Mines. There's a lot of things you can see in Hoima. We'll also have a stakeholder engagement to touch base with our stakeholders in Hoima and the tourism fraternity, and finally we'll be at Mpango on the 11th. Celebrate with the king. It's a full day event full of activities. The traditional performances will be there, and they'll take us through the cultural event which happens on the coronation day. With us, we're a big team actually. Uganda Tourism Board, we're a team of 25 people joining to celebrate with the king. Even other kingdoms, we have you on the calendar. We'll celebrate with you as one of our mandates, and we call upon all Ugandans to celebrate culture. It's the in thing. Products we have.
You talked about kingdoms. What other kingdoms are going to come and be a part of the celebrations?
One of the kingdoms is Toro. Toro Kingdom, these are our sisters. For them, they always celebrate in September, but every year they are invited for Mpango celebration in Hoima. Buganda Kingdom, they're always part of the celebration. Busoga Kingdom, these are grandchildren. Yeah, they always come and celebrate with the king, and even other kingdoms. So the kingdom, we've been working with them. They sent out different invitations, but on the day of the celebration, we get to know which kingdom has been represented and which king is with us. Over the years, the king of Toro has been attending. Hopefully this year, we'll have more other kingdoms coming on board.
You talked about the marathon and how the places that are going to be visited during these celebrations.
Yes.
And you also asked people to be a part of this one. How can they come? And there's a viewer out there who feels the entire itinerary is exciting and they wouldn't want to miss out.
So if you're in Hoima, actually, Uganda Tourism Board, we are going to be there tomorrow at the marathon with our rig truck set up. You can come and ask more questions and see how we can advise you about these different tourism sites, how you can visit them. Actually, if you're in Hoima, it could be a chance You can jump on our bus and we'll go with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is the core value of the celebration and the marathon? Are we celebrating culture? But also, you talked about the marathon, which is having a cause to do with the referral hospital.
Yeah.
Yes, cancer. Is it going to be a part of the cultural celebrations as well as one of the activities?
Yes, as we are heading to Mpango celebration, there are these pre-activities which happen. So one of them is the marathon. It brings together people in Bunyoro and even outside with the Bunyoro. They come and we celebrate together. The money we get, we have to give it out for charity. So it's part of the Kingdom celebrations, but the main thing is celebrating culture.
Let's not spoil for you. Stick around and you're going to be visualizing all these activities on ground because we are going to be moving with you. Okay, give us your last remarks in regards to today.
Today is about travel, exploring Bunyoro. We are traveling as a team and I'm very excited that part of my members, I think they've not been to Hoima. It's going to be their first time. So I call upon viewers out there, come and we celebrate and explore Bunyoro together. Thank you.
Today is the travel day. If you're still in Kampala, you can still make it to Hoima for these celebrations. Stick on UBC Good Morning Uganda Tourism Express. We will be bringing you all these updates regarding Mpango celebrations in Hoima.
Murairo muta abanyoro na abanyorokati n'emyenda yonna abinyorokitara amabala gange banyeta Irene Twaire marketing Uganda Tourism Board etimu etukorera hano ya Uganda Tourism Board bali tuli bayingi abandi bali enyuma okwo nitugonza kusiima obukama n'omuhikirwa na tiimu yaye yonna habwenteekaniza zinu buli mwaka tubaire ntwija nywena abairukire mwebale muno kusagika ekyoma ekitugenda gura ekya Cancer Run ite ekitongole kya Uganda Tourism Board tujunanzibwa n'oburambuzi ebyokulambula byonna mu Uganda nitabajunanzibwa nabyo amahoteri amakampuni g'oburambuzi tujunanzibwa nago n'ogitunda aheeru ntongera encouraging buli muntu weena mugonze ebyobuhangwa n'oburambuzi kiri kimu hakintu ekituli mu kukora tuli hano buli kiro bukya tujja kwogera kubahagira Explore Uganda egyo niyo brandi tukozesa hano mu Uganda na heru ya Uganda mwebale muno
kisani mutarugaho kwenda kutangira bengi ba St. Peters mwebale kuinjira Faisaliyo kale tugaruzaho St.
Happy Heroes Day to you once again. If you're home, rest away as you also reflect carefully on the reason for Heroes Day so that you can also be inspired to be a hero for your nation or in somebody's life. It's time for GMU Business. Welcome back from GMU Tourism Express. My name is Julie Nantawa-Musisi, and still looking at matters Heroes Day and celebrating Heroes Day, local investors have commended the government for the prevailing peace that has enabled the country socially and economically. Now, the local investor, especially in small-scale industries, also are very grateful with the gallant heroes who sacrificed their lives and participated in the war that liberated the country in the 1980s. Uganda will celebrate its 36th edition of Heroes Day today in Nyantonde, and National Heroes Day honors all those who sacrificed their lives in the 5-year Bush War in the 80s and was first celebrated in 1989. This year's Heroes Day celebration will be at Nyantonde, and President Museveni will grace the function. Investors in small and medium-scale industries want support to invest in rural areas. Ntajarize encouraged youth to emulate the heroes who participated in the liberation of the country. Ntajarize was addressing the media in the press conference held at the factory In Chikumbi Mitiana municipality, the workers hailed President Museveni and the NRM government for supporting local investment. Now moving on, in Uganda, a significant portion of about 19% are exposed to waterborne diseases due to dirty water. Now, one of the concerned students at Wanyange Girls Secondary School came up with a simple solar water heater that can save communities. This was at the science fair to promote science and technology in different student projects. The Jinja District Inspector of Schools, Eria Chisambira, called upon parents to support the students' projects to higher levels for extra income. Now, NCBA Bank recently unveiled its new Tweed Towers headquarters as profits soared 40%. The bank also became platinum sponsor of Auto Show Kampala 2025. NCBA Bank Uganda marked a major milestone with the official opening of its state-of-the-art office at Tweed Towers, Nakasero. The move comes as the bank reported a remarkable 40% increase in profits in the year 2024, underscoring its strong market performance and digital-first strategy. The new headquarters solidify NCBA's growing presence in Uganda's financial sector, supporting expanded services and customer engagement. Meanwhile, NCBA was announced as platinum sponsor for the 4th edition of the Auto Show Kampala, scheduled for July 12th to 13th. NCBA is leveraging the Auto Show to spotlight its asset financing solutions, offering flexible loans for individuals and businesses to own vehicles. And finally, a new round of talks aimed at resolving a trade war between the US and China is set to take place in London today. US President Donald Trump announced on Friday that a senior US delegation would meet Chinese representatives. Over the weekend, Beijing confirmed that Vice Premier He Lifeng will attend the talks. The announcements came after Trump and China's leader Xi Jinping had a phone conversation last week, which the US president, that is, described as a very good talk. Last month, the world's two biggest economies agreed a temporary truce to lower import taxes on goods being traded between them. But since then, both countries have accused the other of breaching the deal. Writing on his Truth Social platform on Friday, Trump said U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, and Trade Representative Jamieson Greer would meet Chinese officials in London on Monday. And on Saturday, China's foreign ministry said Vice Premier He would be in the UK between 8th and 13th June, and that a meeting on the China-US economic and trade mechanism would take place. The new round of negotiations came after Trump said his phone conversation with Xi on Thursday mainly focused on trade and had resulted in a very positive conclusion for both countries. According to Chinese state news agency Xinhua, Xi told Trump that the U.S. should withdraw the negative measures it has taken against China. Now, let's look at the forex rates as of the 4th of June 2025. And on the day, the US dollar opened at 3,635.68 buying and was selling at 3,645.68. By midday, it was at 3,636.91 and selling at 3,646.91. It closed in at 3,636.45 and was selling at 3,646.45. Now, the British pound was buying at 4,912.48 and selling at 4,925.98. The euro was buying at 4,133.91 and was selling at 4,145.28. The Kenyan shilling was buying at 28.13 and selling at 28.21, and the Tanzanian shilling has maintained 1.35 buying and selling at 1.36. Now, the South African rand finally was buying at 203.47 and selling at 204.03. And that marks it for today's business segment on GMU. Good Morning Uganda does continue. The agenda is up next, and we are celebrating heroes on this Heroes Day. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Heroes Day is observed on the 9th of June annually in Uganda. On this day, we commemorate the sacrifices made during the Bush War of 1981-1986, which played a crucial role in shaping Uganda's political landscape. It is a time to remember and acknowledge the struggles and achievements of those who fought for independence, peace and justice, and to reflect on the ongoing efforts to build a better Uganda. This year, the celebrations will take place under the theme, The Legacy and Ideals of Our Heroes, a Memorable Inspiration. Join us on Monday the 9th of June in Liantonde District as we relay the activities live on UBC. Happy Heroes Day.
On the occasion of the 36th Heroes Day, the Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs, together with the Uganda People's Defense Force, join His Excellency General Retired Yoweri Kaguta Tibuhaburwa Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda and Commander-in-Chief of the UPDF, and all Ugandans in commemorating this significant event. As we honor the gallant men and women who sacrificed for the peace, freedom, and prosperity of our nation, we reaffirm our commitment to ensuring peace and stability throughout the country. Aligning with the National Development Plan 4, we remain focused on completing the UPDF National Referral Hospital, fast-tracking the construction of the Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs headquarters, strengthening the capacity of security agencies to address emerging security threats, and enhancing people-centered security service delivery. As we reflect on the legacy of our heroes, we pledge to uphold the values they stood for and continue building a peaceful and secure Uganda for all. The Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development will read the budget speech for the financial year 2025-2026 under the theme Full Monetization of Uganda's Economy through Commercial Agriculture, Industrialization, Expanding and Broadening Social Services, Digital Transformation and Market Access. Please listen to the budget speech on 12th June 2025 to know the budget priorities and the opportunities it presents. Our budget, our responsibility. This message is brought to you by the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group, Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, and all the Budget Month partners. As we mark the 36th National Heroes Day, celebrated under the theme Legacy and Ideals of Our Heroes, a Memorable Inspiration, the Office of the Prime Minister congratulates His Excellency General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni Tibuhaburwa and the general public upon this day. Heroes Day reminds us of our national call to uphold the four core NRM principles of patriotism, Pan-Africanism, socio-economic transformation, and democracy, coupled with values of integrity, sacrifice, and unity. These were the principles held by the heroes, and it is therefore our duty to preserve and promote them for the next generation. Let us all draw inspiration from our heroes and contribute meaningfully towards the development of this country through the implementation of government programs to achieve socio-economic transformation. Happy Heroes Day celebrations for God and my country. Right Honorable Robin Anabanja, Prime Minister.
Uniquely ours. Explore Uganda.
Every Wednesday, live in our studios in the heart of Kampala.
We have to change the political culture in this country, really. Who has bewitched Ugandans?
I want to assure you, as government, we shall do whatever it takes to ensure that Ugandans are safe.
We have conversations that have analysis, explanation.
This law society, this union of theirs, because they want a job everywhere, they want to be this, they want to be that, they want... No. We know it's a union.
You cannot be making a road, bitumen grade 1, in Congo for 5 billion.
But Not every truth is fact, and not every fact is truth.
The argument that the General Court Martial is responsible for peace and stability is without basis, either in law or in fact.
We have been told how Napoleon was a great orator. Now, Napoleon cannot help me get food. They told me combine harvest in Saskatchewan. I don't know where Saskatchewan is. This is a geography we're taught. Instead of teaching me how to preserve Mabera forest, they're teaching me about Rhineland. This is a problem we got. We cannot run away from it.
Right now, you hear very disgusting stories of members of parliament. Instead of discussing the details of loans, they ask for their cuts.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
All on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
The government is commanded is to maintain law and order, safeguard citizens' rights, and provide essential public services.
Remember, one of the pillars of the roadmap is innovation and entrepreneurship.
There has been this question of how are you protecting our indigenous seed?
It's going to be a tall project that answers somebody's question.
For the past 20 weeks, the front bench has brought you insightful discussions on governance, security, healthcare, justice, and commerce.
Why do you go through this complicated procedure, involve the lawyers? You bring the case against him, the judge will hear you out and pass judgment, and you're out of court in record time.
We remain committed to keeping you informed and engaged on key national matters.
So these are huge, these are powerful organizations which now Uganda chairs. Why don't you come together?
If we haven't migrated to the e-card because of various reasons, including that not all the people of Uganda have smartphones.
You can sit in your house, apply for a passport. If you have a Ugandan who has a successful logistics firm in the US, it means he can come to Uganda and do a lot more.
Now airing every Monday at 8:30 p.m. with me, Jethro Kasaiji, your interface with the government only on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning once again. Thank you so much for always choosing UBC TV to inspire you. It's Good Morning Uganda, and my name is Julie Nantawa Mosisi. Time for the agenda, and today is special because we are celebrating heroes of Uganda. But what better way to know about heroes and why we celebrate heroes even in today's Uganda without the history of part of what makes the heroes today and what formed and informed Heroes Day in Uganda. This will be the 36th celebration, and this year's theme in particular is legacy of our heroes and is the memory of great names and the ideals that they stood for. Now today we are particularly looking and celebrating the heroes of Fronasa and the legacy that they stood for. And in studio with me to do that is Mr. Matovu Vianney Ngoma. He is the Chief Whip of Fronasa. To be on the show, 0709-602-592. That is a WhatsApp number that you can send your message to, ask your questions and engage in on the show. Once again, good morning and thank you for joining the show. Good morning, Mr. Matovu.
Morning, madam.
Thank you for coming to UBC.
Thank you too for hosting me.
And I was telling you earlier on before we came onto the camera that particularly I'm excited because for me it's learning history from someone who has been a part of it.
Don't be excited beyond repair. Be excited centrally.
Okay.
To be sensitive about the issue.
Sensitive about the issue.
Yeah.
That is very keen. And I hope you two have got that memo that let us be excited to be sensitive about the issue and not beyond repair.
And conscious about.
Right. Let's start from, we are particularly looking at celebrating the Fronasa heroes. Give us that history. Briefly take us back to the early days of Fronasa. What was Fronasa? Who was Fronasa? How did Fronasa become? And why are we talking about Fronasa?
The reason why we are handling Fronasa is the background of the vision of the liberation struggle. Because most of Ugandans were discouraged by their own thinking and the syndrome of thinking otherwise, and lacking the sense of sacrifice, a fear of death, if I can bring it direct, surrendering that Amin could not be ousted as he had ousted the legitimate government of the metropolitan colonialists left here by the hereditary consciousness of the Queen by then. So Fronasa comrades decided to sacrifice themselves, forming up an ally with Samora Machel and Mzee Mwalimu Julius Nyerere to liberate Ugandans. That was the question. When that question landed on the bed of sacrifice and risk, most of other practitioners in the struggle by then, it was not only Uganda that was affected alone. Most of our brothers we wanted to come along with, they said no. They didn't mention that they are scared with the war. They only said that the liberation of Uganda, of brothers and sisters in Uganda, is for Ugandans. Then the road was rolled to us. Then I recognize most the support of Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, who gave us training camps. One was in Morogoro Mkumbo, where there is Safe Mukasayahaya, for you don't know him, is the one who trained. That's where we took our team of NCOs, non-commissioned officers training. Those are instructors and the like. Is the one who trained all these generals you see around here, including Comrade Ret El Tumwine and most of those. From Morogoro Mkumbo. Then another one was in Nachingwea with Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, and another one was in Bagamoyo, where Vladimir Putin, we were together with him, who is now a president of Russia. Nyerere trained him for 4 years in Tanzania. Then Nyerere convinced Samora Machel, after the death of Eduardo Mondlane, to take one of our team, including my comrade Bosco Omre, Brigadier General Bosco Omre, is now in Soroti. if we are together, including General Sare, Sef Ali. There were very many others in Cabo Delgado, in Mozambique, and contributed much materially to have Amin collapse. Of course, after the collapse of Idi Amin and the formation of UNLF, National Liberation Front, stroke National Liberation Army, then the liberation was achieved by then in 1979, on the day called the 11th April 1979, but we were swallowed and succumbed by the element of greed, of conflict of interests, which caused a saga hidden in a cancer called elections. Most of the people, they think that the elections of 1980 were the ones which spark out the liberation struggle, which we called popular resistance struggle, from 1981 to 1986. No, it was only greed, the distribution of wealth, which you call national cake in this .com era. But for us, that element of greed caused the problem, caused the segments and fragmentations within the settings of division of labor. We call it labor, but in your sense of recent, and according to the Constitution, is a national cake and jobs, government jobs, because we reached the level of even getting the military electoral commission, which was chaired by the military council by Mwanga, Paulo Mwanga. So the element of greed caused the rigging of elections from the score of the victory from Kawanga Semogerere to Obote. Because for us, we were having UPM, Uganda Patriotic Movement, and it is still in existence, that patriotic movement, and it is a registered political party in Uganda here, with Comrade Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. And now let me read Triantonde and why we celebrate, including the word legacy. The legacy is to screen and view yourself. Have you achieved the social contract you had with the people? For example, the reason why I call it social contract, this was not a military armed struggle. It was a popular resistance struggle where the Ugandans merged with those who had an art of training to oust the tyrannical regime, the juntas. It was not the war of military that there was a barracks confronting another concentrated area, but it was Ugandans themselves fighting the tyrannical regime. So in Lyantonde, when we are viewing this in the Limelight, Lyantonde was an international core, Lyantonde and Impigi, where you have told me you come from, were international wing of the struggle, which people doesn't know. Because the reason why I call them the international wing of the struggle is one, when our team crossed from a Royal Triangle to Kenya and abroad, used this route, Kasanje, which is in Impigi by then, now it is Ntebe.
Now it's Wakiso.
You subdivided in Ntebe, now Wakiso. Those subdivisions are the ones following our history and the background of the struggle. Crossing the Lake Victoria, Kisumu, then abroad. Then the firearms which were donated to us from Tanzania, it was that route of Lyantonde, Rakai, then Isinjiro, then you cross to Tanzania, Kafunzo, then those firearms were carried by Ugandans who were not soldiers, who supported. There is a gentleman called Chinywa Machunda. He's now the father of the MP, Enos, of Kabura. It is called Kabura by our language, but now by our language of the recent subdivision of the constitutional mapping, it is Lyantonde. But for us, we used to call it Kabura. Then we have a gentleman called Karisa. Karisa was the one who was leading us from Ruwero to Lyantonde. Then most of our activities were operated within his home. There is a gentleman also called Bagambana. He's also there. We had a great team, and another gentleman, Deceived Obote, was a trained wildlife officer. By then they were calling them game officers. Was called Muizusia. Muizusia is the one who could keep those who were going to join the struggle, because that one was a recruiting base, bonding us with Rwanda. If we want to cross, when we crossed for the peace talks, we used Rwanda. Then we crossed via Lyantonde, via Western, then Kabare to Kenyatta International Conference Center in Nairobi. So these two districts were very important, because when you are fighting the war, you fight one thing. You don't fight to have big caliber of ammunition and long range and missiles. You only protect yourself not to be cut off. When you are cut off, however strong you are, you cannot best manage. They can surround you and keep you there until you surrender yourself. Those are the parts which help us not to be surrounded.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that background, Mr. Matovu VNA. Ngoma, he is in studio with us. He's really painting the picture for us. We were not, for those of us who are not there, who need to know the history of our nation and why we celebrate Heroes Day today. Now, to be on the conversation, 0709-602-592, I will read one from Okello Trinity. You say that, good morning, happy Heroes Day to all Ugandans. Today we celebrate the bravery, resilience, and sacrifices of our national heroes who have shaped our nation's history. We honor their legacy and draw inspiration from their courage. To all the unsung heroes in our communities, families, and workplaces, your selflessness and dedication are truly valued. Let's continue to strive for a better Uganda built on the principles of hard work, integrity, and service to others. May God bless Uganda and its people. Thank you very much, Okello Trinity, for being on the show. Now, Mr. Matov, you were a young person at that time. What really inspired you to... You mentioned that there are other Ugandans who feared and said that that's just for Uganda, let's not engage. But you, in your own spirit, in your own nature, in your own individuality, you decided that you should be a part of the cause. What really pushed you and inspired you to be on the cause?
It is a two-way. Others were visionary, offended with overthrowing the constitution legitimately and joined the struggle. Others, it was by the cause of suspicion. This is why for us who know, who have ever exercised, we don't ally with how the police, intelligence, and other organs of the state preferring charges against Ugandans. Suspicion is a dangerous matter which can make families and even friends split and reach at loggerheads, which can cause stiff interest funnel and cause problems within the society you are in. So it was by means of suspicion. They suspected to be close allies of the cited rebel winger by then called Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Not His Excellency by now, by then Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Because of the following reasons. Museveni was known to a gentleman called Suicide, but for us we used to call him Katungi. Suicide was working in our sub-county to a certain rich man. So when the reeking of even rumor-mongering is dangerous, you never dine with a rumor-monger. Rumor-mongering, when the rumors sprang up, suspecting suicide, because I am here with you on the show. You don't know my activities tonight and how I traveled up to here. But when they move it by suspicion, they say that one knows what Matovu is engaged in because she has hosted him on the show. That one can crucify you alone. Most of our people were killed because of suspicion, and they were innocent, green about the struggle. And they have never even cited Yoweri Museveni by then. He was even scarce because he was not popularly known as he is now by then. But they could suspect. They reached even at the level of suspecting cats and dogs that he may change into this and this, because they wanted to victimize people because of their livestock. If they wanted to hit their livestock, they could say Museveni changes into a cow. So they come and raid and root cows, or they come and raid and kill cats, or they come and raid and kill dogs, in order with a target to victimize the people. So the cause of joining the struggle were two. Others had the vision to join the struggle and liberate the country from the hands of the tyranny and the juntas. Another one were suspected and charged with treasonable charges. Others were taken to the garo, to the barracks. By then, that was Great Ambarara, where I come from, Isinjiro. In Great Ambarara, the barracks which was there was not a barracks of human beings, was a barracks of lions. It was called Simba Battalion, because all those who were there were lions. They could throw you into lions. When you go to Simba Battalion, you cannot survive. The most way to survive is to flee. That's why they call it free. Is to flee into exile. And even most others had not gone into exile. They had gone to look for greener pasture, to work and get money. Because the economy by then, because of the sanctions against the government of Idi Amin, the economy foreign. And even they made economic sanctions against him. If you want a radio, a bicycle, and a motorcycle, you have to go to Tanzania, labor, after being paid, you buy it. Then when Museveni was, was misinformed that all these people who go to Tanzania and work, buy radios, buy motorcycles, bicycles, they are rebels. He announced what he called magendo. It is a Swahili word, that a trade which is not licensed. So whichever you buy, because their target was to root motorcycles, bicycles, that's how they brought that report. Because this is an eye-opener to all government managers. Never rely on any report brought by intelligence and CIDs. Because for them, when they have a target to make you astray and achieve gains, unlawful and wrongfully, they can bring a report. So that the report that reached President's office of Idi Amin was that when you go to Tanzania, you work, you are paid, you buy a radio, because there was no radios in Uganda, because this inlet of import from Mombasa to here was closed. You are a rebel. They could come, vandalize your home, arrest you, and kill you.
Right.
Only way to survive is to run back. When you run back, you join the struggle.
Right. Now, between the two, in your from your personal experience, between the two, was it because you had the vision for a liberated Uganda, or there was an issue of you being framed?
Mine was by suspicion.
Right.
They suspected, they came, raided the home of my father. I had no home by then. The home of my father, and even they put a barracks for 7 years. It was stormed when we stormed Mbarara under the command of Sras Paulo Mayunga, who was a Tanzanian commander. That's when it was hosted out.
Right. 0709-602-592. A lot of knowledge, a lot of history to learn from today, and for you to understand why you as a Ugandan should celebrate Heroes Day. Many a times in my generation, when we hear all these messages, communiques passed by the government that 9th June is a public holiday, we tend to think, oh, what does it mean? But this is a moment for us to understand the why, so that we are also filled with the patriotism and the heart for our country, to also have heroic hearts to serve our nation. Happy Heroes Day to all Ugandans. Best wishes from Mwalimu Matafali here in Bwera Kasese. Thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for saving Uganda. Mwebale kuwereza gwanga nze wabusimba Peter Kayunga Bugerere. This is to you, Mr. Matovu Vianney. Now, let's look at Fronasa in itself. First and foremost, you are the chief whip of Fronasa. Does that mean that Fronasa exists? Does it still exist?
Yeah.
It still exists. Performing what duties?
Okay, it is typically in existence in two segments. One, within the UPDF Act, the area was not this amended. I cannot quote this one amended before being assented to. Fronasa, FEDEM, Save Uganda movement, and other allies that we were with in Tanzania to fight the tyrannical regime, and even in Ruwer Triangle back here, it is recognized by the law as a liberation organization.
Right.
It is not an army, it is a liberation organization. In liberation, there is what we call military economy or military geography. Most people, they think military is the carry of the firearms and fight or even performing security duties. No, there is political economy. When you are studying politics versus military, there is what we call power, the word power. For us, we don't know it as power, literally written in the dictionaries and other books. We know that somebody to be powerful, you need to have an economic might. So there are three wings: economic might, military might, and ideological power, those three. Now Fronasa is in existence, balancing these three pillars to have a stable, balancing economy, balancing secure Ugandan, and balancing lawful state. For example, we have registered cooperative. We have 38 registered cooperative societies in Uganda. In every region, we have a registered cooperative society, which is multi-purpose, leading the liberation of economic rights. Because very many people doesn't know that economy is also a right, is a human right. That is economic rights. We are laboring to stabilize the economic rights of Ugandans. Don't think that those cooperative societies are being managed by only fighters. The law says that when you constitute a body, you have to integrate the following: widows, orphans, and those who are still living. And the philosophy of the military, any entity you have to consider the surroundings, the catchment. This is why you see most of the people who are being treated in Bombombuya and those, and the primary schools and secondaries we have, they are not only sons and daughters of the soldiers. The law says that when you are a military officer having a facility somewhere, you first consider the population. So if I don't explain so much entirely to the root, they may think that these are fully formed ex-servicemen and women doing their own business. We integrate everybody who so wish, who can read business with us. And of recent, we were having a program with Agro Consortium and Insurance Regulatory Authority, sensitizing veterans and the public about agriculture insurance. We have done trainings in Imbarara, Fort Potro, Kasese, here Kampala. We began with Kampala, Mbare, then Bukedea. After these functions, we were to be in Yumbe, but we were blocked by Eid Adha. After all these festive seasons, we surplused Yumbe, from Yumbe to Arua, then from Arua to Pakwachi, then back, and we redesign. We have read entrepreneurship trainings with Uganda Investment Authority. And we stringently take route march to research about the realization of our core targets and objectives. For us, in fighting in the struggle, we were having objectives. We were not having territorial objectives. This is why you see most of us, they are not actively engaged in government service jobs. We didn't come here to look for jobs within the government. We came here to create the environment for others to serve. We are using the philosophy of the donkey. The donkey cannot work with its cab. No. When it gets its baby gets older, it deviates from working, the baby works. This is why for us we are not offended fighting for ministerial posts, fighting for RDCs and the like. We are there to oversee. This is why we are soon to form up a full-fledged historical council to keep checking them, because in Great Britain, that's what they call the House of Lords, to check their own affairs. For us, this government is our own affair, to stabilize everybody, to make everybody enjoy. Not that of recent, which I hear, and I don't know, that one, that somebody wise, somebody wishing well Uganda must be oppositional, rudimentary oppositional. No, ours is to concentrate our own efforts, pile them together, sensitize what is important to us all. We achieve it together.
Right.
As a target.
Right. As the chief whip, and I want to actually thank you for that background, because it really paints the reality that many don't know, that all these services, like that, you know, the hospital at the barracks, the Bombo, all of those should be accessed by the public first. Even for many people, the narrative within the public is for ex-service people, or the UPDF or the military. People do not have this information. So I would like to really thank you for that profound background. But that also gets me to wonder, what exactly is your role as the chief whip in Fronasa? What do you oversee? What do you do?
My role within the public and my comrade is one, to keep the discipline, to keep the target, to keep checking them, not to let them sleep. You know, in Rwanda, they have what they call umukangurambaga. It means the party must have those to make it awake, not to leave it sleep. In Uganda, the reason why things rot, we don't have those people to keep lighting the candle, is to keep lighting, is to keep checking them, demanding reports from them, briefing me and me debriefing them of our revolutionary struggle. Because it was not a struggle for territorial gains. This is why you see in the 10-point program, before reaching 10-point program, during the Kagera War, we had 4 points, which we called objectives. Then from there, when we waged the Royal Triangle, we formed 10-point program. Program, points leave, you mark the word program. What does it mean? It means it was to call to order, stabilize, after running a stable governance, then the programs flow to the people. Program, I am emphasizing it, but others, they say, these political parties which are disturbing here, they only say that theirs is to remove. They are using that word, remove. Ours was not to remove, was to organize the program. So we had a practical program to best benefit Ugandans, or to allow Ugandans have the best way of how to exercise their own knowledge, their own programs, and package them salary-free to the development of the country. That's why we called it program. So now we must be there checking the programming when we form up that council. And this is why I call back to order the target begun by Comrade Yoweri Museveni of reconciliation. It shouldn't be an issue of religion. It should be a form-up of our philosophy. In our philosophy, we have to form peace and reconciliation, either committee or whatever you call it. Within that commission, you staff, civilians must be there, veterans there, women, youth, and the like. Then you dine together for the reconciliation, and you move recommendations and orders. But when it goes by religion, after reconciling, you leave it to God to judge. But when it is moved by peace and reconciliation forum or committee, we direct. We can say, hey, you have decided to reconcile. You have decided to give a breathing space, bailouts, let all those who were suspected be released forthwith.
Right. In your perspective, do you think the country has lived up to the ideals that Fronasa was formed for in the first place?
It is balancing, because you can't achieve 100%. Even God didn't achieve 100% himself or herself, because reached a level of saying, you can co-create. Now, this is why I am changing the program, which you have called celebration, not to be one. It should be research to the doctrine of the liberation struggle. As we are moving, as they moved to the Antonde, they were to form a team together with those who were in practice, visiting everybody, correcting the views. Then we package them. When we reach to Riantonde, those people of Riantonde, when they say that, no, You promised, we had a contract with you on this. You have been able to reach here. The reading is pointing us here. You are failing here. Go and cover here. Not like the recent mandate and formed up acts and laws and statutory instruments from ministries. You know, now they have changed it to manifesto. Manifesto is a small microcosm of the politicking. It is not the wider program of the liberation struggle.
So in your perspective, what percentage out of 10 between how the country has moved and the ideals that Fronasa stood for, what percentage would you give it?
The percentage is 6%.
Right.
4% is still missing.
Right.
The reason why that link is missing is one, we don't integrate. We were succumbed by the thinking of one to think that he thinks most, he knows more. Because in the struggle, we hated much that issue of saying, I know more. We didn't want to hear, I know more. I know more caused problems. We should have achieved 10%, as you have said.
Right.
But 4% has been taken away by the no more, the English more. Because they don't allow our people, I was at Loggerheads at a hug tag with Parliament in the Committee of Legal and Parliamentary Affairs here, trying to convince them that in case there is a bill tabled, thrown to the committee, let them allow Ugandans come. And even those who doesn't know English bring their views. Then we have those to interpret them back to their language of their business, as they tell us. But they were saying that we have to close them out. But for them, they bring it in a cosmetic way. They can't tell you that they don't want you in the parliament, even though they deceive you that they are representing you. Right. If you are representing me, I am the owner of parliament.
Right.
But now you are chasing me out of it, saying that me, I am not worthy, nor even the reasoning I have is rudimentary, not to exercise my views there. It is you to represent me.
Yet I should be active in parliament.
Without allowing me to step there.
Right.
Now, for them, they say, we consult them and we bring their views. How do we check that whichever we were with you in the constituency is the real one that you have brought to parliament?
Right.
While you bring it yourself alone and change the language.
Right.
Because when we are in a constituency, we use vernacular. Then vernacular is transformed into
English,
a colonial language.
On the floor of parliament.
On the floor.
That is a very profound insight. Let me read a couple of your comments. Good morning, Uganda. I'm very pleased to see Mr. Matovu for the amazing historical story. I appreciate all the good plans and struggle for a better country. Today we too celebrate the fallen and unfallen soldiers for their good deeds. Thank you. This is General Paul Lokech. Oh, you say thank you to General Paul Lokech, thank you to General Salim Saleh, and thank you to Eli Tumwine. You are from Soroti. Thank you for being on the show. Good morning, UBC. Today I have no questions. You are our hero from UBC, as you always give us your precious time and hosting guests to address country matters. I wish His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni a happy Heroes Day. Thank you for his struggles. Happy Heroes Day to Mr. Chief Matovu. Thank you for his struggles as well. Happy Heroes Day to Dr. Apollo Milton Obote for giving us independence, and everyone I cannot mention here, and pray to God to help this country away from greed and obsession of power, money, which is the reason for our sufferings. A great day, family. Someone else comes through and says Happy Heroes Day. This is Opito Walter. Thank you, Walter, for being on the show. And many of you are really thanking Mr. Matovu for the history that he has given us, and thanking him for his profound narration. Okay, I'll leave it at that there. Okay, let me just read this one from Chemtai Patrick, who says, good morning, UBC, thank you for the program. I'm happy and happy Heroes Day. I thank Papa Matovu for feeding us with this history. Some of us learn a lot from this. I personally thank him, and I have interacted with you. He has interacted with you physically, and you are really a human rights advocate with a lot of wisdom to be passed on. So he says, thank you, Papa. This is Chemtai Patrick. You're receiving your flowers. But
Chemtai Patrick didn't come. He has hidden one point. His father is a fellow fighter.
Okay,
From Kapchorwa.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. And taking it from there, today we are honoring those who, you know, selflessly gave for Uganda to see where it is right now. What is your perspective on how would you define Heroes Day today in Uganda and how it's celebrated today, in your own words?
The heroes now, how it is packaged, let us not celebrate as a rust, fruit of what is being packaged. How it is packaged, it lacks practical sense.
How?
It should be practical.
How?
It was overtaken by the legitimacy. When they went to the house, packaging the Heroes Day, Honors and Awards Act, they put it on a drama. It is dramatized.
Okay.
For us, we want it changed to practical means that when we decided that we are going to go to Lyantonde, as it is now, as I'm talking, we go to Lyantonde for the whole week. We get closer to the public. We allow the public to check whichever we did agree with them. Because I want to make you remember that this was a popular resistance struggle. It was popular business, people's business, on how they wish things to be corrected too. It is not to come from here by the status, ranks gained by some of us to read speeches. If you go there with the speeches, either English, either Rugwara, either Nyankura, either whatever, those who are in the background, because you cannot have a tent which can house every attendant there, they will not exchange. You will leave the place not knowing what is missing and what has been achieved. We need this business of impacting how the target and the focus was be practical, not theoretical, as it was in the beginning. We must change it so that when we go there, we allow people talk. And you have mentioned what is not agreeable by my philosophy, that for you, you were there.
How?
Because when you reach the age of 18, you are allowed to correct, to comment, to discuss that issue and bring your own, because that's how we shall lead what we call continuity. When we zero it to those who were there, it will not continue. It will lie with them.
But you see, having you here is what is helping us, because it's now informing us and giving us the information that we need to continue with, as opposed to the days prior when most of everyone doesn't know, has a cloudy story of what happened and they don't know how to continue.
With continuity, we have to accommodate.
Right.
You
But
don't
lately,
continue and maintain you as honorary. Because now, let me give you an example. This is UBC. It started with analog.
True.
But migrations came. We went. But not neglecting the target of educating Ugandans, creating program for Ugandans, but in a digital form. And this, likewise this, I want it in the petals of fecundity with Ugandans and the population. We were to bring on board the views of the people of the Antonde,
right?
Their checks and balances to us, so that we can implement. This should be coming out with implementation, not to come out with anxiety, celebration, or happiness, and no, implement. What are we going to implement from the debriefings and briefings of the heroes of Antonde?
Right.
Who is being neglected? Who is being left out? Who is aggrieved? You have to stomach everything, because there are some of those who doesn't want the truth, because they say that the truth is unpleasant to hear.
Right.
No, for us, we have to stomach the truth. Open criticism must arise, and it must be heresy. We shouldn't behave like other institutions, that when I criticize a critic, in simple terms, they say a critic is an offender. No, a critic is a teacher who corrects the implementer to implement what is heresy and what augurs well to the public. But now, there is some of the acts from parliaments and laws of which I don't want, I personally. Like saying that they are charging somebody that he did any issue which he arise offending a person of presidency. How can I know, I myself, that what I am addressing here is not good to His Excellency, to the President?
Now, allow me ask you to pause it there. We are coming back right after sports. So if you're watching the show, do not move. You're going to enjoy some sports, GMU sports, but immediately after the sports, we'll be coming back with Mr. Matoviani Ngoma to still talk about the Heroes Day celebration of today, but of course in light with celebrating Fronasa. So keep it UBC TV.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Heroes Day is observed on the 9th of June annually in Uganda. On this day, we commemorate the sacrifices made during the Bush War of 1981-1986, which played a crucial role in shaping Uganda's political landscape. It is a time to remember and acknowledge the struggles and achievements of those who fought for independence, peace and justice, and to reflect on the ongoing efforts to build a better Uganda. This year, the celebrations will take place under the theme, The Legacy and Ideals of Our Heroes, a Memorable Inspiration. Join us on Monday the 9th of June in Lyantonde District as we relay the activities live on UBC. Happy Heroes Day.
On the occasion of the 36th Heroes Day, the Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs, together with the Uganda People's Defense Force, join His Excellency General Retired Yoweri Kaguta Tibuhaburwa Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda and Commander-in-Chief of the UPDF, and all Ugandans in commemorating this significant event. As we honor the gallant men and women who sacrificed for the peace, freedom, and prosperity of our nation, we reaffirm our commitment to ensuring peace and stability throughout the country. Aligning with the National Development Plan 4, we remain focused on completing the UPDF National Referral Hospital, fast-tracking the construction of the Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs